Hello guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. Now we always say you can learn a lot about a goalkeeper from their pre-match warm-up. And today we're going to be looking at the pre-match warm-up of Robert Sanchez from Chelsea's recent game against Manchester United. Now that game and Sanchez's performance made a lot of headlines. But what can we learn from his warm-up and what lessons can we take from it to apply to our own game? So without any more chat, let's get straight to the warm-up. So a rainy September day at Old Trafford and the Chelsea goalkeeping union head out ready for the warm-up. Now, for today's match, the starting goalkeeper is Robert Sanchez. He's going to be playing the game. We then have two other goalkeepers. So we have Filip Jorgensen, a Danish international, and Gaga Slonina, who is a US international. And the goalkeeper coach is Michel de Bernardin, an Italian goalkeeper coach who had worked with Maresca at Leicester City. Now to start his warm-up, Sanchez takes part in some active dynamic movements, so a bit of jogging, dynamic stretches. He'll have done a lot of his static stretches in the change room before heading out. But this is all about getting his heart rate up, getting going, and the other two goalkeepers play a game of two-touch whilst he's doing so. After completing that, Sanchez then moves into some short-range passing drills. Now the aim of this is for him to get his first touch ready, for him to start finding his accuracy in his passes, and the receivers, or the other goalkeepers, are quite close in. So all he has to do is play that short range pass. What he's looking to do is mix up the different types of passes. So he's using his laces or his instep, and he's mixing up whether he takes a touch or whether he plays in two touches. And he also uses the goalkeeper coach centrally as a bit of a bounce pass too. This is all to mimic the vast majority of passes that he would make during a game. After completing the short passes, Sanchez then moves on to some longer range distribution. So the goalkeepers move to a wider angle or higher up the pitch, and he starts to play longer range passes. So this might be a clip into a fullback or a bit of a drive into a winger. What's interesting with this is Sanchez only uses his right foot with his long range distribution. In previous videos we've seen, like with Edison, some goalkeepers use 2 feet when they're warming up, but Sanchez is very heavily favouring his right foot. He uses the goalkeeper coach again as a little bit of a bounce pass to receive and then play longer into his other goalkeepers who are getting wider and higher up the pitch. And you do see that Sanchez does miss passes. What's important with these videos is you see that even the pros make mistakes, especially in their warm-up. They're not always perfect, but what they're good at is resetting after each drill and going again so that they're mentally prepared as well as physically and technically ready for the match. Sanchez also plays longer passes too, so he's practicing that longer ball over the top, which is especially important when facing a high press. With the distribution done, the goalies then move into the handling aspect of the warm-up. So we start with some simple volleys. So Sanchez takes a volley and has a lateral sidestep to the next server to take another volley, just warming up his hands, his eyes, and his footwork. He alternates with Slonina, and when he's not working, you can see he's very calm, very relaxed, almost lackadaisical, walking around nice and slowly. Compared to other goalies who are quite intense, you can see he's very laid back. We then have a new part of the handling warm-up, which I've not seen before, which is side volleys from the edge of the box. The goalkeeper coach executes this really well, and it's more of a game realistic version of a volley rather than dropping it and hitting it with a straight leg. You'd more likely see a striker hit that volley sideways during a match. Slonina and Sanchez then move into dipping volleys from the edge of the box, and this is a lot more traditional, but also important in this case because it was a very wet day. It's important for the goalies to be able to find out how the pitch is when the ball bounces off it when it's so wet. But you can also see from this how fast Sanchez is, how good his footwork is, and how explosive he is as a goalkeeper. Jorgensen, who was helping the goalkeeper coach with that service, then gets his first bit of work of the day. And because of that, I presumed he was the third choice, that Slonina was going to be the goalkeeper on the bench. But that makes it even more interesting what happens later on. After the handling, Sanchez then moves into some angled strikes. So the goalkeeper coach, de Bernardin, and Jorgensen on the other side hit different strikes towards the goal, taking a touch and striking with both feet in the goalkeeper coach's case, which was extremely impressive. But this is important for Sanchez because he's starting to get up to match speed. He wants to see that ball struck after a touch. It's not a dead ball hit, but he's picking up the movement and he's getting his hand-eye coordination as well as his low saves and his positioning tuned up ready for the game. He alternates with Slonina, and as you can see when he's not working, like we said before, he's very relaxed, just resting, waiting for his next set. Next up, the angled strikes become a little bit tighter, a little bit closer to the byline, and we have one low strike off the floor and one volley. You can see from Sanchez's set position that he's a very tall man. So when the shots are down by his feet, he's quite comfortable in creating a foot save rather than trying to get his hands down low. He's very upright in his set position. His hands are quite narrow, but it means he's very strong when the ball is hit in and around him, as you can see from his final catch, which is extremely clean. After angle strikes, we then move on to crosses, and I really liked the variations that the goalkeeper coach threw into this part of the warm-up. So the goalie coach starts out wide, delivering the ball into the box, but we have the two other goalkeepers as well acting as attackers, providing a distraction for Sanchez and making it more of a match realistic example of how to take crosses in the warm-up. The goalkeeper coach then moved to a more narrow crossing position, which you don't see too often. It's very traditional that you have the crosses from out wide, but he's almost on the corner of the 18-yard box, and this time crossing with the other foot, having an outswinging cross. Now again, interesting, they must have presumed that Man United would try and put in more crosses into the box, but also from central areas, from that little number 10 position. So Sanchez has to be ready and reading the game so that he can come and claim or punch those crosses when they're chipped beyond the defence. Impressive two-footed service from De Bernardin, but also a great punch from Sanchez, showing his athleticism and his power in the air. The group then move on to a corner situation with the balls going back out wide again, being crossed into the box, and the other two goalkeepers becoming attackers in the drill. The final aspect of the crossing becomes cutbacks from just inside the 18-yard line. Sanchez has to create a match-realistic position at his front post and decide whether to cut out the ball with a low save or spin, retreat to his line and react to a shot from the edge, provided by the goalkeepers, giving him that decision-making element to his warm-up. Again, he alternates with Jorgensen and he starts to get that more match speed element of his warm-up. The goalkeeping group then repeat all those elements, so wide crosses, narrow crosses, corners and cutbacks from the opposite side of the pitch. So therefore the crossing element of this warm-up took up the vast majority of time that they had before the match when compared with the different aspects of the warm-up. After the crosses, Sanchez then moves on to some match speed shot stopping. So he has central strikes from just outside the area from Slanina and then angled strikes from De Bernardin and from Jorgensen. Now the angled strikes are interesting. The other person who's not striking becomes the defender and the striker takes a touch around them and hits on goal. This means Sanchez has to get used to not only match speed strikes, but also dealing with obstructions in his view. Sanchez is ramping up towards the game now, so he wants to be working at pretty much match intensity. Most of this warm-up, he's been very calm, very relaxed, but you can see from his save across goal how explosive he is as a goalkeeper. So he wants to be working at that tempo before heading in before the game. So that's it, warm-up over, and it was quite a quick warm-up to be honest. Sanchez then heads into the dressing room, gets ready, before heading out before kickoff. Now we all know what happened 5 minutes into this game, so it provides some interesting context, not only for the warm-up, but also for the moments before kickoff. So Sanchez heads out, it is pouring with rain, and after shaking hands, he then heads over to the bench. I wasn't expecting this, so I continued to film because I was interested as to see why. But he obviously asks for something from the support staff that they don't have on them at that moment. I was thinking it might be a drink or something else that he wants to take to his goal. He's waiting for a good couple of minutes for them to give whatever he's asking for, but he still doesn't receive it when he heads back out to the team for the huddle, for the last little bit of communications before kickoff. After that, Sanchez then heads to the goal and a member of staff brings over whatever he was asking for. Now I zoomed in to see what it was. I couldn't quite see, but he definitely put something on his gloves. So I presume it was Vaseline to deal with the rain that was pouring down at the time. And he's still applying it to his gloves when the game kicks off. And as you can see, probably not in that mindset of being completely ready to go as kickoff goes on. Now I might be coming to conclusions based on what I know already happens, but then 5 minutes into the game, Sanchez misjudges a long pass and fouls Bryan Mbeumo just outside the box, resulting in a red card only 5 minutes in. A nightmare situation for any goalkeeper, and although I'm a Man United fan, I did feel for him in this moment. He heads towards the bench, obviously distressed, obviously upset that he's received the red card, and Philip Jorgensen then prepares to come on. My question at that point was, did Jorgensen do enough in that warm-up to be ready to perform in a Premier League game at Old Trafford? It's not always something that you think about, but it's important for the number 2 to get enough work in before the game. Unfortunately for Sanchez, for Jorgensen and for Chelsea, the result didn't go their way, and the red card played a big factor within that, and they ended up losing the game 2-1. Now, I'd be interested to know your opinion. Do you think Sanchez's warm-up contributed to what happened in those first 5 minutes? Was he mentally and physically prepared, ready for the game? It's easy to come to conclusions based on what you know happens eventually, and I would be tempted to say that it didn't play too much of a role. You can see he's a very laid-back goalkeeper anyway, and I think he would be like that regardless of the game or the occasion. I can see from his warm-up he's a big goalkeeper, but he's also very explosive, very quick, and I'm sure that's why he's able to pull off some of the incredible saves that he does make for his club. But a lot of questions around Sanchez are about his mentality, are about his mistakes that he can make. Did you see anything in that warm-up which could shed some light on that? But a great opportunity to watch another Premier League goalkeeper and to learn from their warm-up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we will see you in the next one. Take care, keep chasing improvement, and I'll speak to you in a bit.